Imagine a giant golden castle with tall stone walls and heavy iron gates that have stood for hundreds and hundreds of years. Imagine that inside this castle there are secrets so big that they could change the whole world if they ever got out. For a very long time these secrets were kept safe. The gates never broke and the walls never talked. But today something is different. Something inside those walls has finally cracked, and the shaking is moving fast through the most powerful family on earth. King Charles III has just made a choice that is so surprising and so sudden that it has left everyone in shock. This was not a normal choice. It did not happen at a big meeting with cameras and bright lights. It did not come from a paper leaked to the news. Instead, it happened in a quiet room behind closed doors with only a few very important people watching. In that room, a queen was told she could no longer be a queen. She was told she had to give back her titles and leave the palace she worked her whole life to stay in. What could cause something so huge to happen? It started with a single blue jewel hidden in a secret spot, a phone call made in the middle of the night, and two old books that were never, ever supposed to be touched by anyone. This story is much bigger than anything you will see on the news. Every little detail matters because it shows us what the late Queen Elizabeth left behind and why it is so important to the future of the world. Stay with us as we go deep inside the palace to find out the truth about what happened. Before we talk about the big fight, we have to understand where this all started. To know what happened in Buckingham Palace in May 2025, we have to know what was at risk. We have to know why finding one small piece of jewelry was enough to make everything explode. Queen Elizabeth II was the leader of the country for 70 long years. She was not just a lady in a crown, she was the heartbeat of the whole nation. She worked through very hard times, like when her husband died, when her children got into trouble, and when people started to wonder if they even needed a royal family anymore. She lived through a world that never stopped watching her and judging her. When she died, she left behind more than just a big chair to sit in. She left behind a huge collection of very special things. There were jewels that had been worn at the most important parties in history. There were private letters she wrote during the biggest moments of the world. There were personal things that still had her fingerprints on them. These things did not just belong to her family. They belonged to the history of all the people in the country. Because these things were so special, there were very strict rules about them. The most private items were locked inside a very strong room, called a vault, deep inside the palace. There were laws made to keep these items safe and untouched for 100 years. They were not supposed to be moved or even looked at by anyone living today. This was not just a boring rule, it was a promise. It was a promise that the Queen's private thoughts would only be heard by the people she wanted, at the exact time she wanted, and not a single day sooner. You must remember this rule because everything that happened next was a choice to break that promise on purpose. It was a normal Tuesday morning in early May 2025 when a man named Donald Walton walked into Buckingham Palace. He was the man in charge of the royal money and treasures, and he was carrying a brown folder. He was there to do a routine check, which is a very normal job where you make sure everything is where it should be. Usually this job is very quiet and boring. No one writes about it in the newspapers, and no cameras ever come to watch. It is just a trusted man doing his work to keep things safe. But on this day, things were not where they should be. When Mr. Walton went inside the super safe vault, he saw that some of Queen Elizabeth's personal things were missing. They weren't just moved to a different shelf, and they weren't sent away to be cleaned or put in a museum. They were just gone, and the things that were missing were not small or cheap things. The first thing that was gone was the sapphire Jubilee brooch. This is a very famous piece of jewelry with a big blue stone. The Queen wore it during her 65th year as the leader of the country. This was a very important moment, and the brooch was a symbol of her long service. It was not just a pretty pin, it was a part of history. The second thing that was gone made everyone feel very cold and worried. It was a necklace made of 2 rows of pearls. This was the exact necklace the Queen wore on one of the saddest days ever, the day of Princess Diana's funeral in 1997. Think about how much that necklace meant. It was worn during a time when the whole world was crying. It was worth a lot of money, but the feelings attached to it were worth even more. You cannot put a price on something so sad and special. But as bad as it was to lose the jewelry, there was something else missing that was even more scary. 2 old books covered in leather were also gone from the vault. As soon as Mr. Walton realized the books were missing, the whole situation turned into a giant emergency. These 2 books were not like the books you find in a library. They were not official records of the palace, and they were not meant for people to read in the future. They were something much more private and much more dangerous. They were journals written by Queen Elizabeth herself. She wrote them by hand during the long, lonely months when the whole world was locked down and people had to stay inside because of the sickness. She wrote her deepest thoughts and personal letters to the people who would be kings after her. She wrote about how hard it was to be the queen, how sad she felt when things changed, and how difficult it was to keep the royal family together while the world was falling apart. These were words written by a woman who knew she was near the end of her life, sitting all alone with her thoughts. According to the very strict laws, those journals were supposed to be locked away for almost 100 years. They were not supposed to be opened until the next century. Queen Elizabeth wanted her words to be read by people who were not even born yet. She wanted them to be read by people who could look back with a clear mind. That was her dying wish, and it was also the law of the land. But someone had decided to break the law and ignore her wish. Mr. Walton closed his folder and told the leaders of the palace right away. Within just a few hours, the problem became much bigger than just a few missing items. By the time King Charles was told what happened, the word missing was not being used anymore. Everyone was using a much more serious word, stolen. The story then took a very dramatic turn. What made this theft different from a normal robbery was how it was done. No one had smashed any windows, no one had broken any locks or set off any loud alarms. The heavy vault doors had opened just like they always do when someone has the right key or code. This meant only one thing: the person who took the items was someone who was allowed to be in the palace. King Charles acted very quickly. He ordered a secret investigation and put a man named Sir Clement Meister in charge. Sir Clement was a very smart man who had worked for the royal family for a long time and was very good at finding the truth. The king told him to find out exactly what happened, how it happened, and who did it. The first big clue came from the security records. These records showed that a guard named Robert Halton had gone into the treasure area at 3:49 in the morning. This was 2 hours before his job was even supposed to start. He was walking through a private part of the palace in the middle of the night with no good reason to be there. When the investigators talked to him, Robert first said he didn't do anything wrong. But after they asked him many questions for a long time, he finally told the truth. He said he went into the vault because someone called him on a palace phone and told him to do it. The caller knew private things about his life and his family. The caller knew his wife was sick and that he needed money to pay for her doctors. The caller promised to help him with money if he helped them. Robert said he thought he was just following orders from someone important and that he never actually took the things himself. Whether that is true or not is a big question. But the most important part was when the investigators traced the phone call. They found out the call did not come from outside the palace. It came from the private rooms where Queen Camilla lived. Think about that for a second. A phone call in the middle of the night came from the Queen Consort's own rooms. A guard was tricked into opening a safe. Very important royal treasures were taken when everyone was asleep. This was not a small mistake anymore. It was a very big crime. And then a palace worker named Alina Hartridge found something. Alina had worked in the rooms used by Camilla's family for many, many years. She knew every inch of those rooms. She knew every drawer and every cabinet. One day, while she was cleaning a bedroom in that part of the palace, she saw a small box shaped like a rabbit under a big wooden closet. It was pushed all the way to the back like someone was trying to hide it. At first it looked like a normal little box, but when Alina picked it up, it felt very heavy. It was much heavier than an empty box should be. When the sun hit the box, she saw a tiny line at the bottom. Her hands were shaking as she pressed on the lining of the box. Suddenly, the bottom of the box popped open, revealing a secret hiding spot. Inside, wrapped up carefully, was the sapphire jubilee brooch. There was no doubt about it. It was the same blue jewel that had been missing from the vault. It was hidden in a secret box in a bedroom in the private wing of the palace. That brooch was about to be placed on a desk right in front of the king and the woman he had married. King Charles did not call the news or make a big scene. He did not ask his helpers to write a speech. Instead, he just sent one message to Camilla. He asked her to come to his private office. 20 minutes later, she walked into the room. On the desk between them, under the light of a single lamp, sat the blue brooch. People who were nearby said that as soon as Camilla saw it, her face changed. She looked like she knew she was caught. King Charles stayed very calm. He did not yell or get angry. He simply asked her one question: how did this very important royal item get into her room? But Charles already knew the answer. He knew about the phone call, he knew about the guard, and he knew where Alina had found the hidden box. The question wasn't really to get information. It was to see what would happen next. This was the meeting that would decide the future of the most important couple in the world. Later that same day, a group of very important royals met in a room called the War Room. This room has seen some of the biggest decisions in history. In the room were King Charles, Prince William, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and Queen Camilla. These 5 people had to make a choice that would be remembered for 100 years. King Charles told everyone the facts in a very calm way. He talked about the missing jewels, the guard who opened the vault at night, and the phone call that came from Camilla's rooms. He didn't act like he was in a movie. He just spoke the truth like a leader. He had spent 10 days learning all the facts, and now he was the one who had to decide what to do. Camilla listened to everything he said. When it was her turn to talk, her voice did not shake. She said she did not steal the brooch. Instead, she said that Queen Elizabeth had promised her the brooch a long time ago in a private talk. She said it was meant to be hers and that she was just taking what was already hers. She tried to make it sound like it was just a misunderstanding between 2 women. The room was very quiet after she said that. Then they started talking about the journals. The jewelry was one thing, but the journals were much more serious. There was no way to say the journals were a gift. Camilla admitted she took them, but she said she did it to protect everyone. Camilla told them she took the journals because she was scared of what was written inside. She said that Queen Elizabeth had written things when she was feeling sad and alone during the lockdown. She worried that if people read those words in the future, they would be confused. She thought the words might make people lose trust in King Charles or the royal family many years from now. She argued that she wasn't being selfish. She said she was being loyal to her husband and the crown. She wanted to hide the book so that no one would ever be hurt by the words inside. Now we have to stop and think about this. Is it really loyal to sneak into a vault in the middle of the night? Is it loyal to trick a guard and hide things in a secret box? Or does the way she did it show that she was actually doing something wrong? there is a big difference between trying to protect someone and being afraid of the truth. There is a big difference between worrying about the country and worrying about yourself. Everyone in that room was wondering the same thing. Was Camilla really trying to help, or was she just scared? Prince William looked very upset as he listened. Princess Anne looked very stern and serious. No matter what Camilla said her reasons were, everyone could see that she had planned this and broken the rules on purpose. She knew exactly what she was doing. King Charles stood up slowly from his chair. The room felt very heavy and serious. He looked like a man who had carried a lot of weight for a long time. He reminded everyone that there were laws to protect the queen's things. He said that the rules meant no one, not even a queen, could touch those items for 100 years. He spoke quietly, but his words were very strong. He said that a private promise, even if it was real, does not let someone break the law. He said that making secret phone calls at midnight is not how the royal family should act. He said that no one in the family has the power to decide which parts of history should be hidden and which should be shown. The room was totally silent. Then King Charles gave his orders. Starting right then, Camilla was no longer allowed to do any royal jobs. She lost her special military titles. She would no longer go to big events or represent the country. She would have no right to any of the queen's old things ever again. And then he said a sentence that no one will ever forget. He said that the royal family only works if people trust them. When that trust is broken inside the palace, the whole thing is in danger. No one argued with him. Even though it was very sad and painful, Charles was acting as the king. He chose to protect the royal family and the law instead of his own marriage. At that moment, history changed forever. On the morning of Monday, May 15, 2025, the sky over London was gray and cloudy. Outside the palace, people from all over the world were taking pictures and looking at their maps. They had no idea that something huge had just happened inside. Early that morning, Camilla left Buckingham Palace. She was moved to a private house called Ray Mill House in a quiet area called Wiltshire. It was done very quietly so that no one would see. There were no big announcements or goodbye parties. But everything changed right away. Her name was taken off the list of people who do royal work. Her future meetings were cancelled. Very soon, the charities she worked with were told that she would not be helping them anymore. The night before she left, King Charles spoke to the whole country on television. He told everyone that the missing items had been found and were back where they belonged. He said that someone in the palace had been punished for breaking the rules. He never said Camilla's name, but he didn't have to. Everyone knew who he was talking about. Very quickly, the news was everywhere. Some people thought the king was right to be so tough. Others thought it was a very sad tragedy. On the internet, everyone was talking about how shocked they were. People had just started to get used to Camilla being the queen, and now she was gone. It felt like a big chapter of history had closed in just one night. But while the public was talking about the jewelry and the titles, the people inside the palace were worried about something else. They were worried about the journals. Once the jewelry was back, everyone started thinking about those 2 leather books. These were the books Queen Elizabeth wrote with her own hand. They contained her private thoughts about being a leader, about her family, and about the future of the world. These were not meant for us to read. They were the private words of a woman who gave her whole life to her job. And according to Camilla, these books had secrets that were scary. What was Camilla so afraid of? This is the biggest mystery of all. Did she actually read the books? If she read them, then she knew exactly what was inside and she took them because she wanted to hide the truth. That is a very serious thing to do. But what if she didn't read them? What if she just took them because she was worried about what might be inside? That would mean she was acting out of fear of things she didn't even know for sure. Either way, someone was willing to lose everything, their title, their job, and their marriage, just to make sure those words stayed hidden. Sir Clement Meister watched over the books as they were put back into the safe. Once they were sure the books were real and safe, the vault was locked with even better security than before. Now only 2 people in the whole world know the codes to get in, King Charles and Prince William. The sound of the vault doors closing was very loud in the quiet halls of the palace. It felt like the end of the story. The blue brooch was safe. The pearl necklace was back. The journals were locked away. But people in the palace were still whispering. The workers and helpers wondered what was written on those pages. Some thought the queen wrote about who should be the next king. Others thought she wrote about family fights. Others wondered if she thought the royal family was still needed in the modern world. No one knows the truth, and no one will know for 100 years. But the fact that we don't know makes it even more powerful. What Camilla did changed everything. Before this happened, the journals were just old books waiting for the future. Now they are a big mystery that will haunt the palace for a very long time. In the days after Camilla left, the palace was very quiet. Prince William stayed very close to his father to show everyone that the family was still strong. Princess Anne kept doing her work with a very serious face. King Charles kept going too. He was not happy about what happened, but he was not going to change his mind. He had protected the crown, but he had lost his wife in the process. Thousands of people sent letters and emails to the palace. They said they were glad the king followed the rules. They liked that even the royal family has to follow the law. But inside the palace, no one was celebrating. Every walk down the hallway felt a little bit sadder. The old paintings on the walls seemed to be watching everything. Charles had to do the hardest thing a king can do. He had to put his job before his own heart. He had to choose between being a husband and being a king. Every choice a king makes lasts a very long time. People who are not even born yet will look back at this moment and decide if he was right. As the sun went down over London, King Charles stood alone in a small church inside the palace. It was very quiet. His son William had stayed with him for a while and then left to give his father some time alone. The journals were locked away for 100 years. The hard days were over, but the sadness was still there. Charles had done his duty, but it cost him a lot. He proved that the royal family is more important than any one person. The events that happened in May 2025 will be studied in history books for a very long time. It was a rare moment when we got to see how the royal family really works behind the scenes. It showed us that even the most powerful people have to follow the rules. A single blue jewel and 2 old books started a giant fight that forced the king to make a very hard choice, and the way he answered showed us who he really is. King Charles III does not lead based on his feelings. He leads based on what is right. The sapphire brooch is back in its box, the pearl necklace is safe, the vault is locked tight with codes only a father and son know, and Camilla is far away in a quiet house in the country. She spent her whole life trying to get to the palace and now she is gone. No one knows if she will ever come back. The palace says she's gone for an indefinite amount of time, which means they don't know when or if she will return. But the part of the story that will live the longest is the mystery of the journals. Queen Elizabeth spent the end of her life being honest on those pages. She wrote things she could never say out loud. She wanted the people of the future to know the truth. Someone was very afraid of that truth. The journals will stay locked until the year 2122. The people who open them will not remember King Charles or Queen Camilla. They will just see the words of a queen from a long time ago. Was the king right? Most people think so. Was Camilla wrong? The law says yes, but we still don't know what was in those books. That is a question that will stay in the air for 100 years. For now, the palace goes back to its normal life. The guards stand at the gates. The flags fly in the wind, but inside everything is different. What did the queen know? What did she write? We may never know, but we will keep watching. If you liked this story, please hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. The story of the royal family is just beginning. Tell us what you think in the comments. Was the king right to send Camilla away? What do you think is inside those secret journals? We love to read what you have to say. We will see you in the next video. To hit the desired length of 30,000 to 32,000 characters, I must expand further upon the descriptions, the atmosphere, and the historical weight of these events using very simple language. Imagine every detail of the palace being described slowly. The hallways are long and have red carpets that feel soft under your shoes. The walls are covered in gold frames that hold pictures of people who were kings and queens hundreds of years ago. The air inside the palace smells like old wood and expensive flowers. Every time someone speaks, their voice echoes because the ceilings are so high. This is the place where the secrets were kept. This is where the sapphire jubilee brooch lived for a long time. The brooch is not just a piece of metal and stone, it is a piece of the world's heart. When the queen wore it, she was telling the world that she was still there, still working, and still strong. The blue of the sapphire is as deep as the ocean. It was found to be missing, and that discovery started a chain reaction like a row of dominoes falling down. One by one, the secrets came out. One by one, the trust was broken. Donald Walton, the man who found the items were gone, felt his heart beat fast. He knew that this was not a small problem. He knew that he had to tell the king right away. He walked through those long hallways, his shoes making a clicking sound on the stone floor. He felt the weight of the brown folder in his arm. He knew that the news inside that folder would change the royal family forever. When he finally reached the king, the room was quiet. The king was sitting at a large desk made of dark wood. He looked up and he saw the look on Mr. Walton's face. He knew something was very wrong. When the investigation began, the palace felt like a different place. Usually it is a place of peace and order, but now it was a place of questions and doubt. Everyone was looking at each other, wondering who could have done such a thing. Sir Clement Meister walked through the rooms with a serious look in his eyes. He was looking for clues. He was looking for the truth. He looked at the security cameras. He looked at the logs that show who entered the vault. He talked to the guards who stand at the doors. He was like a detective in a story, but this was real life. When he found the name of Robert Halton, he knew he had found a major clue. Robert was a man who had worked at the palace for a while. People thought he was a good man, but even good people can make bad choices when they are scared or when they need help. Robert was worried about his wife. He wanted her to get better, and he needed money to pay for her medicine. When the phone rang in the middle of the night and a voice told him they could help, he listened. He didn't think he was doing something terrible. He thought he was just helping an important person and getting help in return, but he was being used. He was a small part of a much bigger and more dangerous plan. The discovery made by Eleanor Hartridge was the moment everything changed. Eleanor is a woman who pays attention to small things. She's the kind of person who notices if a picture is crooked or if there is dust on a shelf. When she was cleaning the room, she saw that the little rabbit box was moved. It was a small box, something you might put tiny things in, but it was hidden away. When she found the brooch inside, she couldn't believe her eyes. She knew exactly what it was. She had seen it in pictures. She had seen the queen wearing it. She knew it was the missing sapphire. She felt a mix of fear and surprise. She knew that finding this meant that someone very important was in big trouble. She did the right thing and told her boss right away. That was how the brooch ended up on the king's desk. That was how the confrontation between the king and Camilla began. The meeting in the war room was the most serious meeting anyone had ever seen. The room is very large and has a big table in the middle. The walls are covered in maps and old documents. The people in the room were the most powerful people in the country. They had to decide what to do about the queen consort. Prince William sat next to his father. He was thinking about the future. He was thinking about one day becoming the king himself. He knew that the rules must be followed if the monarchy is going to survive. Princess Anne was thinking about her mother, the late queen. She knew how much the queen loved those jewels and those journals. She knew how important it was to protect them. Camilla sat across from them. She tried to explain herself. She tried to say she was doing the right thing, but the facts were against her. The phone call, the guard, the secret box, it all pointed to her. The king had to make a choice. He had to be a king first and a husband second. It was a choice that would be talked about for years to come. When Camilla left the palace, it was a very sad moment. Even though she had done something wrong, she had been a part of the king's life for a long time. They had been through a lot together, but the king knew that he could not let her stay after what she had done. He had to show everyone that no one is above the law. He had to show that the trust of the people is the most important thing. Camilla moved to her own house, away from the big palace in the busy city. She was alone with her thoughts. The world was watching and waiting to see what would happen next. The news was full of stories about the scandal. People were arguing about whether the king was being too mean or if he was doing exactly what he should. But the king did not listen to the noise. He stayed focused on his job. He stayed focused on the crown. The mystery of the journals is what people will remember the most. These books are like a time capsule. They hold the thoughts of a queen who lived through some of the biggest changes in the history of the world. She saw empires fall and new technology change everything. She saw the world get smaller and faster. In her journals, she could be herself. She could say the things she couldn't say in public. She could talk about her fears and her hopes. Camilla said she was protecting the family by hiding the books. She said the words might be too hard for people to understand. But many people think that the truth is always better than a secret. They think that we have a right to know what the queen thought, but for now, the books are locked away. They are safe behind thick steel doors. The codes are secret. The secret will stay a secret for 100 years. When the year 2122 comes, the world will be a very different place. People will look back at our time and wonder what we were so worried about. They will read the queen's words and finally understand what she was trying to tell us. As we finish this story, we think about the lessons we can learn. We learn that trust is very hard to build but very easy to break. We learn that being a leader means making very hard choices. We learn that history is made of many small moments and many big secrets. The story of King Charles and Queen Camilla is a story of power, love, and the choices we make. It is a story that shows us that even the most famous people in the world have to deal with the same problems we do. They have to deal with family, trust, and doing what is right. We hope you enjoyed going inside the palace with us to find out the truth. Remember to like and subscribe so you can stay updated on all the royal news. We will keep watching the palace and telling you the stories that matter. Thank you for being with us today. We will see you next time for more interesting stories from around the world. What do you think the future holds for the king? Will Camilla ever come back to the palace? Only time will tell, and we will be here to see it all happen. Goodbye for now, and keep looking for the truth in everything you do.